Imagine arriving at the Chinese Grand Prix thinking your car has barely changed, and suddenly discovering that something about it feels completely different. That is exactly what is happening inside McLaren, because while from the outside it seemed that the team would not bring great news to Shanghai, in the garage they are beginning to realize that the small improvements introduced in the MCL40 are causing unexpected reactions. In fact, both Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have been literally stunned by certain changes in the car's behavior, something that no one in the paddock expected to see so early in the season. And the most surprising thing is that McLaren has not presented a technical revolution, but rather a series of adjustments that could hide much more performance than the team showed in the first race of the year. Because after Australia the situation seemed clear. McLaren was behind Mercedes and still trying to really understand its new car. The performance deficit was evident, the difference per lap was worrying, and the team itself openly spoke of a learning phase. But now, with the Chinese Grand Prix on the horizon, something is changing within the team. Engineers, simulations, and new aerodynamic adjustments are revealing car behaviors that even its own drivers did not expect to find yet. The big question is now inevitable. What exactly has changed in the McLaren for Norris and Piastri to react like this? And why could these improvements turn the China weekend into a surprise within Formula One? McLaren's arrival at the Chinese Grand Prix is surrounded by a strange feeling within the paddock, a mix between prudence and curiosity that is beginning to awaken many glances towards the British team's garage. After the first race of the season, the picture seemed quite clear. The MCL40 was a car that was still far from showing its true potential. The data from Australia indicated that McLaren had work to do, especially to close the gap with teams like Mercedes and even Ferrari. But while from the outside the narrative seemed quite simple, a team trying to understand its new car, within the team itself something was beginning to take shape that no one expected to see so soon. And McLaren has not arrived in Shanghai with a great revolutionary package that will completely change the car. There's no massive floor upgrade, no radical aerodynamic redesign, and no completely new concept that will transform the car's performance overnight. However, what has emerged is something much more interesting from a technical point of view. A series of discrete improvements, aerodynamic adjustments, and refinements that are altering the car's behavior in a way that even its own drivers did not anticipate. For Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, this process has translated into unexpected sensations. Both drivers are very familiar with the performance of McLaren's cars in recent years, especially after the progress the team has shown in recent seasons. But the MCL40 is a different car, a car that is still being deciphered piece by piece. Therefore, when the engineers began to introduce certain specific adjustments for the Shanghai circuit, the first reactions within the team were truly surprised. Not because the car has suddenly become the fastest on the grid, but because some of those modifications are changing the way the car responds in key areas of the circuit. The Shanghai layout is particularly interesting for this type of evolution. It is a circuit that demands a lot from the car's aerodynamics, combining long corners of constant support with one of the longest straights on the entire calendar. This mix forces teams to find a very delicate balance between downforce and efficiency at top speed. If the car has too much aerodynamic drag, it will lose time on the straight. If you reduce the load too much, you will suffer in the long radius corners that characterize the first sector of the circuit. For a team that is still learning how its new car works, this type of circuit can reveal weaknesses, but it can also unlock hidden performance. That's where the improvements that McLaren has prepared for this weekend come into play. This is not a spectacular package designed to gain half a second per lap at once, but rather optimizations that affect aerodynamic efficiency, the car's behavior in medium support corners, and especially the way in which the MCL40 manages the tires during long runs. At a circuit like Shanghai, where degradation can play a key strategic role, those kinds of refinements can completely change race pace. And the most striking thing is that these improvements have not only caught the attention of the engineers, but also of the pilots themselves. During simulation sessions and analysis prior to the weekend, Norris and Piastri began to notice that the car was responding slightly differently than expected. Small changes in stability, in the way the car enters long corners or in how it maintains speed mid-corner began to appear in the data. These are details that, seen from the outside, could seem minimal. But for a Formula One driver, that kind of feeling can make a huge difference in confidence and performance. Therefore, inside the McLaren garage an interesting idea is beginning to emerge. Perhaps the true potential of the MCL40 has not yet been seen. Perhaps the car wasn't limited solely by its design, but by how difficult it was proving to find the right settings to run it in its optimal window. And when that process of understanding begins to advance, performance can appear much more quickly than many imagine. The Chinese Grand Prix therefore becomes something of a large-scale experiment for McLaren. It is not the race where the great evolution package of the season will arrive, but it could be the moment in which the team begins to demonstrate that the MCL40 has more potential than the initial results suggested. And if those small improvements manage to work as the engineers hope, the Shanghai weekend could become the first big technical surprise of the season for the Woking team. What McLaren has tried to do is precisely optimize that balance. Instead of simply increasing downforce, engineers have worked on improving the efficiency of airflow around the car so that each unit of downforce generates less drag. This allows maintaining a good level of support in curves without penalizing straight speed so much. And although on paper it may seem like a small change, in Formula One that type of optimization can translate into very valuable tenths throughout a lap. This is where the surprised reactions from the pilots themselves begin to appear. During simulations prior to the weekend, both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri began to notice that the car was behaving differently at certain points on the circuit. The MCL40 seemed more stable when entering long corners, allowing a more constant speed to be maintained at the midpoint of the corner. That kind of stability is crucial for drivers, because it allows them to attack with more confidence without fear of the rear of the car suddenly losing grip. Furthermore, preliminary data also suggests that the car could be managing the tires better on long runs. This is especially relevant in Shanghai, where demotion often plays a key role in race strategy. If a car is able to maintain tire performance for more laps, it can lengthen the stints or attack at strategic moments in the race. For Norris and Piastri, these small improvements may seem like technical details from the outside, but from the cockpit the difference can be felt very clearly. A more predictable, more stable, and more efficient car allows drivers to push with greater confidence. And in Formula One, driver confidence can be as important as the car's pure performance. For this reason, an interesting feeling is beginning to emerge within McLaren for the weekend. The team remains cautious in its public statements, insisting that they are still in a learning phase with the MCL40. But at the same time, internal data is starting to show signs that the car might have more potential than it seemed after the first race of the season. And if these signs are confirmed on the track, the Chinese Grand Prix could become the first moment of the year in which McLaren begins to really show what its new car is capable of. Because sometimes, in modern Formula One, the biggest leap in performance comes not from a major technical revolution, but from finally understanding how to run the car exactly as it was designed to. The key point of this whole process is how those seemingly small improvements fit together. In Formula One, performance often depends not on a single spectacular piece, but on how multiple elements of the car work together within a very specific aerodynamic window. If one of these elements is not working correctly, the entire system loses efficiency. But when the right balance is finally found, performance can appear quite suddenly. And that's exactly what McLaren is beginning to suspect might be happening with the MCL40. In addition, there is another aspect that is beginning to attract attention within the team: the general efficiency of the car in racing conditions. One of the biggest challenges for McLaren after Australia was the difference in pace compared to some of its direct rivals, especially on long runs. But the adjustments prepared for Shanghai could be helping there too, improving the way the car manages tire wear and maintaining a more constant pace throughout the stints. If this improvement in tire management is confirmed during the weekend, the impact could be much more important than it seems at first glance. On circuits where degradation is significant, strategy can play a determining role in the final result of the race. A car that takes better care of its tires can lengthen its stops, take advantage of strategic moments in traffic, or even attack in the final laps when other rivals begin to lose performance. In the end, everything that is happening with McLaren before the Chinese Grand Prix reveals something very interesting about the moment the team is experiencing. From the outside, it may seem that the MCL40 is still far from its best version, especially after what was seen in the first race of the season. The initial numbers showed a clear difference compared to some of its direct rivals, and the team itself was the first to admit that they were still in the full phase of understanding the car. But that is precisely where the real story of this weekend begins to take shape, because what McLaren has discovered in recent days could little by little change the narrative around its new car. The improvements the team has prepared for Shanghai are not some big revolutionary package that will transform the car overnight. There is no miracle piece that guarantees half a second of gain per lap, nor a spectacular evolution that shakes up the order of the grid. Instead, what McLaren has done is something that is often even more important in modern Formula One. Better understand its own car and fine-tune every little detail so that all the elements work together within the correct performance window. And when that process begins to work, the impact can be much greater than the changes visible from the outside indicate. So, regardless of what exactly happens in qualifying or the race, The Chinese Grand Prix could represent something much more important for McLaren, the moment when the team begins to really understand its new car. And if the sensations that have surprised Norris and Piastri are confirmed on the track, Shanghai could be remembered as the first step towards a much more competitive season than it seemed at the beginning of the year. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.